Harry Potter is back, with the opening of the Ministry of Magic at the new Universal Epic Universe Park, the upcoming Harry Potter TV show, and of course the timed releases of the full cast editions of the Harry Potter audiobooks. There's never been a better time to be a Harry Potter fan. Unless, of course, you pay attention to anything the author has said publicly in the past few years. Before we talk about the actual audiobooks, I want to address a few things. First, I didn't want to spend any time discussing J.K. Rowling or her politics at all in this video, but after some thought I decided it is important to address. What I want to make absolutely clear is that I disagree with Rowling on every single issue regarding trans people, trans women are women, and her comments have been incredibly damaging to not just the Harry Potter legacy, but more importantly the LGBTQ+ community as a whole. The Harry Potter fandom, for the most part, has been a very welcoming space for the queer community, and I would argue the queer community helped it reach the multi-billion-dollar status it enjoys today. The books were hugely important to many people, and J.K. Rowling has become the exact kind of bigot that she claimed to be against in the original Harry Potter books. There are almost certainly queer creators on this platform who are much more qualified to speak on this issue and have far more thought out, nuanced, and well-researched takes than I do. I encourage you to seek them out because they could give a much more rich perspective on this matter than I ever could. I'm going to recommend a few below that you can check out. And second, I really struggle with giving Rowling more money so I could acquire these audiobooks, as they are only available on Audible. I also had a hard time deciding whether to make this video at all, because it would potentially only drive more engagement with Harry Potter and lead to her getting more money. However, Harry Potter is such a behemoth that any influence I have will be so small that I don't think it really matters either way. After this review, if you decide you want to listen to the new audiobooks, I encourage you to seek them out through all of the means at your disposal. Alright, enough preamble. I'd also like to add, if you were considering purchasing this audiobook, I suggest you donate the money to the Trevor Project and use a summoning spell to acquire the audiobook instead. Alright, so why do they even make these? I think the answer is simple. Money. But also because they want to get people excited about Harry Potter again. As I mentioned before, they want people spending hundreds of dollars at Universal, and they want people hyped for the show. In fact, Arabella Stanton, who plays Hermione in books 1 through 3, is also playing Hermione in the upcoming show, but we'll talk more about her later. I also want to add that this is not a critique of the content or story of any of the books, but rather a review of this version of the audiobook. Let's start by discussing narration. If you've been a Harry Potter fan as long as I have, then you know there is an eternal debate in the community about the narration of the audiobooks. The American versions had Jim Dale, and the British versions have Stephen Fry. I'm not sure if this is a controversial opinion, but I don't think either one is objectively better than the other. It comes down to personal preference, and probably which one you grew up listening to. So the following, along with this whole video of course, is just my opinion, not something I consider to be an objective truth. I grew up with Jim Dale, and I much prefer him over Fry. I know Fry is a national treasure and a beloved narrator, but I listened to all of the Stephen Fry versions all the way through, and I still preferred Dale. I think Fry is better at the individual voices, while Dale is a better overall narrator, but I find the Fry versions to be a little too whimsical. I think the Dale versions work better as the series transitions to a darker tone. They both have their strengths, and I encourage you to listen to whichever version you enjoy more. Now, the full cast editions are narrated by Cush Jumbo. I think she does a good job. It's interesting to hear the story read by a woman, which honestly makes sense since they were written by a woman, but the reasoning early on was probably that they figured a male main character needed a male narrator. Again, if you have followed Harry Potter as closely as I do, you know that the whole reason her name is J.K. Rowling on the books is because Scholastic did not think that male audiences in the United States would want to read a book written by a woman. So, take that information as you will. The full cast audiobooks are much more like radio plays than anything else. For example, at times they take out he said or she said, and the dialogue is simply spoken, which I think works better for this project. Her narration does add a bit more of an objective vibe to everything. When you listen to Stephen Fry or Jim Dale, they are doing all of the voices along with the narration. So, for example, Jim Dale is also the voice of Harry's internal thoughts. So I think when you have just a narrator and multiple other actors doing all the voices, it gives the narrator more of an objective vibe. It honestly reminds me of the narration from Baldur's Gate 3, if you've ever played that game.
You approach the dying monster. This is the thing that abducted you. You could end its life here and now, if only you didn't feel compassion.
Overall, I think it works. I wouldn't say the performance is exactly memorable, but it's not boring either. The real standouts are the performances. I don't have a lot to say about the music. It's fine. John Williams' score is so iconic that it's hard to think of Harry Potter without him involved. If you've played Hogwarts Legacy, you know that there are little motifs from the John Williams score incorporated into the score of that game because they are so iconic and familiar and just breathe the Harry Potter vibes. A major difference with the music here is they use a lot of acoustic guitar, which I did not like at first because I didn't think it fit the vibe at all, but it's definitely grown on me. The intro music is certainly better than the Jim Dale versions. I think that one is just goofy, but I gotta love it because I've heard it so many times. Take a listen to the intro music here. However, find it a bit distracting at times. It's mixed alright, but not every emotional moment needs music, or at least not the music that they chose to include. I get that it's supposed to be a more complete experience, and they're cultivating a soundscape here, but again, it is distracting when used improperly. But I don't hate it. It's used quite effectively at the end of the first chapter in Stone. I kinda got goosebumps there. It also often sounds way too much like I'm in a tavern in Skyrim. It's just kind of forgettable. The sound design is cool. A lot of the time I feel like I'm in the scene, and there are a lot of moments where you hear characters reacting, breathing, exclaiming, just extra stuff that's not on the page. Same with sound effects in general. The sound of magic is super cool. Each spell kind of has its own unique sound effect to it, and it really brings a lot of the scenes together. It's subtle, but just hearing footsteps and glasses clinking makes you feel like you're there. One note though, in Sorcerer's Stone, the mixing was really bad. I don't know if it's because I listened to it in my car a lot, or if it's just an issue with Audible, but the narration and dialogue sounded super quiet and the sound effects were way too loud. This seemed to only be an issue with the beginning of the book though. Maybe they were trying to emphasize that for the free preview so people would buy the book. I've not had that same issue with Chamber or Azkaban, but it was very noticeable in the beginning. And people on Reddit recommended changing some audio settings, but it didn't make a difference for me. The performances overall are outstanding. This is really where the experience shines, which makes sense, they are the full cast versions, but it's exciting when they introduce a new character and you get to hear who they cast for the part. Some standouts for me are Michelle Gomez as McGonagall, Mark Addy as Hagrid, Alex Hassel as Lucius Malfoy, and Hugh Laurie as Dumbledore. McGonagall and Hagrid sound exactly like Maggie Smith and Robbie Coltrane from the movies. In some ways, they do the performances even better in subtle ways. I think it was a good choice to go in that direction because their performances are so iconic that it would be hard to hear them with any other voice. Same with Lucius Malfoy, and Dumbledore is very interesting. For starters, Hugh Laurie does a fantastic job. I couldn't even tell that it was him at first. I had no idea he had such a range as a voice actor. What's interesting about this performance is that Dumbledore's quirkiness and general serenity really comes through. He always sounds like he's in a good mood and enjoying himself and just being generally kind, never acting superior or cruel. He more closely resembles the Stephen Fry Dumbledore. I always preferred the Richard Harris Dumbledore in the movies. Michael Gambon is a great actor, but he suffered from poor scripts and direction. Movie Dumbledore is very different from the books, and it feels good to finally be back with him again, with a performer who really does the character justice. Now the trio is great. At the time of making this video, only books 1 through 3 are out, and they are switching to an older cast for books 4 through 7, so we'll have to revisit the cast again once all of the books are out. Frankie Treadaway as Harry and Max Lester as Ron do a great job, and they have real chemistry together. They had a hard job because these are the two characters we spend the majority of our time with, and I'm really impressed. Arabella Stanton is also fantastic and is the clear standout of the three. This tracks because she will be playing Hermione in the upcoming TV series. She is seriously channeling Emma Watson in a lot of these scenes, but brings her own charm to it. Also, I didn't know where else to put this, but the guy who plays Oliver Wood sounds exactly like the actor from the movie. Like, exactly. It's uncanny. The only two characters I do not like are Draco Malfoy and Remus Lupin. No shade on the actors themselves at all. I think it's more of a direction thing. But Malfoy seems to be overacting a bit, and he laughs way too much. My god. They told him to do this snickering thing that's always happening when he's bullying the gang, and it's so annoying. It would be okay if used sparingly, but it literally happens almost every time that he talks.
Is it true? Oh, this is Crab. And this is Goyle. Draco Malfoy.
Ron gave a slight cough.
Lupin is fine, but it is hard to outdo David Thewlis. He kind of sounds like a lazy Michael Fassbender, just not a lot of energy in his performance, which makes sense for the character within the story, but I don't know. With this actor, it just kind of sounds like he doesn't want to be there, but we'll see how he improves throughout the rest of the series. Despite reading these books to tatters as a kid and listening to the audiobooks over and over again every few years, I really enjoyed these versions. It made the story feel fresh. It's like listening to the movies, but a much richer experience. Despite my tiny criticisms here and there, I think they did a fantastic job. They're definitely beating a dead horse, but people love Harry Potter, and it's clear that a lot of effort and care was put into these. I've always felt like I wanted my future kids to grow up with the Jim Dale versions, but now I'm not too sure. In a world where parents give their children full-volume iPads at restaurants to shut them up, this could be a way to get your kid excited about reading and maybe help with their attention span a little bit. The original audiobooks definitely did that for me, but now it's potentially a more exciting experience for them. But if you've been a Harry Potter fan for a long time, there's nothing new here, of course, story-wise. You know all the beats and the characters, you know what's going to happen next. It's supplemental, like the illustrated editions they've been releasing over the past few years. They enhance an already great story, but they're not the definitive versions. The definitive version of Harry Potter is whichever one had the most impact on you. Whether you were listening to Jim Dale or Stephen Fry on a long car ride or staying up past your bedtime reading under the covers, still, they are great in the sense that they let you experience this beloved story in a way that feels fresh. Overall, I would recommend them. However, if you don't want to give J.K. Rowling or Amazon more money, which I totally understand, then I'm sure there is a spell you could learn that would conjure the audiobooks for you. The books are on a monthly release schedule, with Deathly Hallows releasing in May of 2026, and I am really excited to see how they do the longer books in the series. I'm especially excited to hear James McAvoy as Mad-Eye Moody, Keira Knightley as Umbridge, and Matthew McFadden as Voldemort. And I hope you will be back this summer to join me for a review of those. Thanks for watching.